There are some very specific times when we would TIG weld versus MIG weld, but a lot of the times, at least in the world of off-road fabrication, it comes down to personal preference. But I thought I'd go over a couple of reasons why you would switch between the two forms of welding in your shop. So first, we'll talk about MIG welding. MIG welding is officially known as gas metal arc welding. Obviously, we've covered this a lot. You push that trigger. The wire then comes out. Electricity is transferred from the contact tip to the wire. When the wire meets the workpiece, a short arc is created, and that creates a arc, which then creates the molten puddle, and then the wire is fed from the machine down into the molten puddle. That's your filler material. Now, in most fab shops, like I have here, you're gonna have a machine that has a set wire feed speed. You set it the machine, and the wire comes out. If we were operating in a heavy fabrication environment like shipbuilding or ironworking, you can step up to a more professional machine like an ESAB Warrior. Now, when it comes to TIG welding or gas tungsten arc welding, it's a little bit different because now what we're doing is the arc is being created, being jumped between the tungsten and the workpiece, and I'm gonna be feeding the filler wire or filler material with my spare hand. The difference between the two is that I now have full control over how much filler, how fast the filler is fed into the joint, and also the amperage of the machine, because I actually control the amperage output at the end of the piece of tungsten by a foot pedal on the floor. So when would you choose them and why would you jump back and forth? Well, this is a perfect example right here. This is a bracket right here, has a whole bunch of MIG welding on it. This is for the suspension on this Jeep JK. And this is a perfect example of when MIG welding works great. It's fast, it's quick, it's strong, it's fine. But this little captured nut plate that we're gonna add to hold the bolt to keep it from turning, if we come in here and MIG weld it, we could do that, but it's so small, it is better for us to TIG weld it, and I'll show you why. You can see on a joint like this, where we just want to basically lock this washer into place, using the TIG welder ends up with a much cleaner and much more low profile weld than if we went in and MIG welded it. If we MIG welded this edge material onto this base material, considering how thick this base material is, we'd end up with a really fat weld that might cause undercut on the top of this washer and also wouldn't look very good. Another time where you see a lot of people switch from MIG welding to TIG welding, believe it or not, is on sheet metal. You can see down here where I TIG welded the exact same butt joint on this 18 gauge. I was able to essentially melt this MIG welding tack that I had started with and basically draw it across the entire joint all the way down, only having to add a very small amount of filler, and I have a good fusion weld. This right here, honestly, is ready for a little bit of metal finishing, and you are ready to go from there. So it removes a step in the process, which is why you see a lot of high-end sheet metal fabricators will prep their joints and TIG weld them instead of MIG welding. But you can see the benefits of having both machines at your fingertips in the shop at any given time, which is why it's great to have a multi-process machine like the ESAB Rebel. Now, this is actually the Rebel AC DC, so not only can it MIG weld, it can stick weld, it can TIG weld, it can also AC TIG, so I can do things like aluminum, and most importantly, it's equipped with the CoolMini 2, so I have a water-cooled torch, so I have an incredibly small torch to fit into tight places. One machine to tackle any job in the shop.